Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Paris Air Show at the historic airfield in Le Bourget outside the French capital. Our coverage here is sponsored by L3 Technologies and Leonardo DRS. And we've got with us Randy Tinseth, who is the Vice President of Marketing at Boeing Commercial Airplanes. Randy, thanks very much for joining us.
Great to be here.
And I want to say, full disclosure, Boeing is also one of our sponsors. I wanted to start out. The big news here has been MAX 10, the latest sort of iteration of the 737. Talk to us a little bit about the airplane and how you think it positions you in the market.
Well, it is the latest. It's also the biggest airplane in the market. We've been working with our customers for a number of years. They've said, can you make a bigger MAX family member? We're doing that with the MAX 10. It carries the same number of passengers as our competition, the A321, but it flies a bit further. It's more efficient, and it has better operating costs for our customers. So that means more profit. We're very excited about the start we've had in terms of the launch of the program. More than 10 customers, more than 250 orders and commitments. So we're off, again, to a great start.
Talk to us a little bit about how this airplane bridges you to the MMA, not the mixed martial arts, but the medium airplane that folks have been talking about for a long time. You and I talked about it in December when we were out in Seattle, the middle of the market aircraft. Tell us how this bridges you to that airplane and what's your latest thinking based on customer feedback. I know you guys have been soliciting that. Financial firms have been going out and asking airlines what they think you should do, which I'm sure you're always happy to get that unsolicited contribution. Talk to us a little bit about that program and how you get there.
Well, it's not really a bridge to the next airplane, the MAX 10. This is an airplane that's going to address about 25% of the single-aisle market as it exists today. So with the 9, with the 10, we think we have an unbeatable combination to serve that 25% of that very large single-aisle market. What the middle-of-the-market airplane is, we call it the new mid-market airplane. It's an aircraft that will serve that market that lies between where today's biggest single-aisle airplanes are, like the MAX 10 and A321, up to the 787 marketplace. So think about an airplane that would seat somewhere between 220, 270 passengers. Think about an airplane that would fly about 5,000 nautical miles. And think about an airplane that would have wide-body comfort, but still the economics that would be similar to a single-aisle aircraft.
How far along are you guys in conceptualizing that at this point? And how long before you think there'd be an announcement?
Well, I'd put it this way. We've been working now for more than 3 years with more than 50 customers. It's been our responsibility to go out, figure out what really works. How big is that market? And we're really coming to a set of conclusions about the capabilities, as I talked about. But we're really feeling very strong about the possibility of this market. We're looking at maybe up to 4,000 aircraft over the next 20 years. Think about it as an airplane that would serve markets that single-aisle airplanes are either too small or don't have the capability to serve. Or think about markets that a wide-body aircraft with all of its capabilities is just too much airplane. It will be able to do, we believe, what the 787 has been able to do in long-range service, it will be able to do in kind of that mid-market space.
How important is speed? I think that folks don't realize that after Concorde went out of service, the next fastest airplane in the sky was the 747 and the 757, and you can feel that in a shorter transit time when especially you're doing a transatlantic haul. How important is speed going to be in the design of that airplane?
Speed's important, but economics and efficiency is really important. When we talk to our customers, still, fuel is their biggest expense next to labor. So they want an airplane that's as efficient as it possibly can and be able to work within their networks as they have them today. So it has to be a fast airplane. It doesn't have to be supersonic. It doesn't have to be close to the speed of sound, but it has to work in their networks as they are today.
You've been very bullish on forecasts. A lot of analysts out there have been talking about a slowdown in the commercial aircraft market. You and I were talking just before we got started, and I want to give you an opportunity to address that. Why is there that disconnect? That's the first question. And second, where do you forecast this market going?
Well, we've had 8 years of growth in the passenger market above trend. And I guess people are saying, 8 years, something's got to happen. But the fact is, the economy now is actually a bit stronger than it has been before. We're starting to see industrial production come back. We're seeing trade come back. So we're seeing a strengthening of the cargo market. And most important, we're seeing record or near record profitability for our customers. So we're very bullish on where we are today. As we look to the longer term, We see 41,000 airplanes delivering over the next 20 years. About 70% of those will be single-aisle airplanes, 30% wide-bodies, so we know that there's a long-term future here. And frankly, each market's a little different. We look at single-aisle airplanes like the 737. We don't think that we're actually meeting the demand that we see in the marketplace today. Supply is short of demand, so that's why we've been increasing our rates. Today we're building 42 737s a month. That will go to 47 later this year, 52 next year, and 57. It's a lot of airplanes. On the wide-body side, we see more of a mixed bag. Very strong demand for 787s. We're building 12. We see upward pressure to 14. We've made an adjustment in the market to reduce rates on 777s and 47s to really reflect what's going on. We're always going to work very hard to make sure supply and demand in the market are met.
I was going to ask you about the wide-body market, but you've addressed that. Let me quickly ask you about MAX 8, the engine problem. You guys had a delay. Fully understood, fully solved?
Well, I got to tell you, the response from CFM was fantastic. We identified they identified the problem, the engines that may be impacted. We're able to deliver our first airplane early. We've been able to deliver more airplanes since then, and we'll work through the issues of moving those older engines in, getting them fixed, repaired, ready to go, and at the end of the day, we're still going to deliver between 760 and 765 airplanes this year, so we're right on track.
Especially from that gigantic facility you guys have at Renton, which has got to be one of the world's production achievement awards out of that facility.
Well, but it's smaller today than it was 20 years ago, which is really amazing. We build more airplanes today on the same footprint. We actually build more airplanes today on a smaller footprint than we built 16 airplanes a month 20 years ago. It's just amazing.
How is I want to take you to sort of international and a couple of trade questions. First, there is a very prominent disagreement, spat, crisis, depending on how you want to define it, between Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Saudi Arabia's allies. This has been kind of a divisive issue. Saudi Arabia accusing Qatar of sponsoring terrorism. Qatar denies that charge, makes the counter charge that it's actually the Saudis that have been doing so. Prominently, there's a 777 out here in Qatar colors. Great customer of you guys. We were at the launch of the 787 in Qatar colors a couple of months ago in Washington. Is there any way that this affects your business at all in that region?
Well, we clearly have to watch the situation. Overnight, 20% of the routes that Qatar flies were shut down. They're making adjustments. They're working through it. We hope that we see resolution of the situation there. We have 787s and 777s, 37s that we're going to deliver in the coming years. And, of course, longer term, we have the 777X. We're confident that they'll be able to work through that. We're working closely with our customers, but at this point, no delays, no cancellations.
Let me take you to the trade question. You guys asked the U.S. government, and the U.S. government agreed to raise the trade issue on Bombardier, on the C-Series with Canada. The Canadians very quickly responded on that and said, we may not want F-18s from you guys. That shocked some people until you consider that your commercial aircraft interests go far more than 18 F-18s. Talk to us a little bit about why you guys took the action that you did, and whether that's a precursor step. It has less to do with Canada, for example, and more about China.
Well, I think it has everything to do about a fair and level playing field. We don't believe we had a fair and level playing field here, so we took action, working with the government, to address that. The fact is, Canada, Airlines of Canada, great customers. Military there has been great customers. We invest every year more than $1 billion in the Canadian aviation industry, whether it be with our program or our plant in Winnipeg or the many suppliers we have. So this is just about fair trade. And that, I'll just leave it at that.
Have you, I know you've been watching closely what COMAC is doing with the 919. A lot of people have been talking about disruptive innovation here in a lot of ways. What's your guys' assessment of that airplane, and do you think that in 10 years the Chinese are going to be a far bigger threat than they are now?
Well, they find themselves at COMAC in the largest aviation market in the world, one that's growing faster than most marketplaces. So they're in the right place. They have a very intriguing product with the C919. Frankly, it's a big marketplace, especially for single-aisle airplanes. It's a market where we can grow, Airbus can grow, and there'll be one or two other manufacturers that are going to be successful. COMAC is making large investments, whether there be that one or two airlines or OEMs that are successful. It's really up for our customers to make that determination. But we can't worry about what our competition is doing. We have to focus on our customers, make sure we have the right strategy, invest in technology, and then, of course, find ways to build our airplanes at lower and lower cost at all times. If we do those things, we'll be okay.
Two-part question on another trade-related question. Are you concerned? You guys are endorsing the idea of a border-adjusted tax. That's something that President Trump has talked about. There are a lot of analysts who look at that and say, boy, that could put Boeing in a very, very tough position. You get wiring harnesses from Mexico for your product. You get a lot of components coming out of Canada. As you mentioned, it's a market in which you're investing, but it's also an aerospace leading nation, and you have a global supplier base that is going into your products. Why does that border-adjusted tax make sense?
I'm probably not the right person to ask. I'm the marketing guy.
But from a marketing perspective, are you concerned at all that combination of rhetoric of Buy American or American First could then have some sort of residual backlash on your business in terms of being able to sell, to produce the product, and then you needed to produce the product and then to export it?
Well, I'll put it this way. Trade is incredibly important to us. 70 to 80% of the airplanes we build deliver overseas, so trade is important to us. In terms of the market, we like deregulation, we like reliberalization because it helps the market grow. Not only does it help the market grow for our customers, the airlines, but it's also good for passengers. So we're always going to support initiatives in the market that work for free and open trade, and frankly, that work towards more deregulation, liberalization in the market to help stimulate growth.
And so you were pleased with the latest WTO step in the long-running Boeing Airbus saga?
Well, hopefully we'll actually be able to resolve this at some point. But I guess as the innings go by, as the game goes on, I think the U.S. government case continues to build momentum. I think that they like where they're at.
Now, people don't understand that not only are you an aerospace and aviation titan, but you're also a food critic a little bit. And so what's the best meal that you've had here in Paris this week?
It's always best, especially at the air show, if you can find a way to have lunch at the Saffron Chalet. Other than that, I like to find a few small restaurants that are very local, very inexpensive, have great wine, and have nice fresh French food.
Very good. Thanks very much. Although there are some people who say that the food at the Boeing Chalet is pretty good too.
I'm sure it's excellent.
Randy, thanks very much.
Thank you.